So I thought of a few reasons for why minimalism has been appealing to me in the first place. And to be honest with you, one of the first ones is that I just think it seems cool. And there are people that I've observed living a minimalist lifestyle, and I just like what they embody. I like that you can become kind of departed from the material things in your life, not necessarily void of any emotion and completely rejecting material objects, but in a way where you have, I guess, a lot of confidence and assertiveness over what you bring into your life. And maybe you're not as affected by physical and material things as other people are, and it has less domain in your day-to-day. So you're less shaken by things going wrong with your materials than maybe the average person would. And I think there's kind of a cool, confident type of persona that comes with that, or at least to develop that. That's something that I want for myself. So yeah, and then I really want to simplify my life would be a second thing. I think there's something sexy about making a conscious choice to simplify what's going on around you in a time where there's such mass abundance. And I know it seems contradictory, but it can make us actually unhappy to have more and more options versus limiting our choice. There's a study, I think, that showed that if you have 2 ice cream flavors or 3 ice cream flavors versus 10, it causes participants more anxiety to have those more options, and you can probably be happier with less. So it's kind of a challenge in our world right now when we have just so much at our fingertips. But for me, I like the idea of kind of having a sanity check where I purposefully limit what comes in and out of my life to make things easier on myself. And I have to tell you that removing the extra possessions that I had has been very rewarding, but at the same time has been one of the most tedious and annoying processes I've ever gone through. And I really hope that I don't have to do it again, because it is very time consuming. And if I want to be responsible and not just throw everything in the trash, I should find, a specific place for a lot of these things to go. And it's not easy. So simplifying, it makes, it has a big impact to me. I want to be able to focus on the other important things in my life rather than just the objects. I don't want them to have so much power over me. So that's something that I find appealing. And then lastly, I want to be conscientious and to have more power over my impact as a consumer. I recognize that as a consumer, I have a lot of responsibility. And every time I make a purchase, I'm essentially voting for what I want to see in the world. And it's a lot to ask of a consumer in some ways. I think it's the responsible thing to do, but there are so many different variables that we can account for when making a purchase. But if we as individuals want to be more conscientious about the impact and the consequences of our purchases, I think it's a great thing. It is time consuming and it does take effort. But, for me personally, I want to see a more environmentally sustainable world. And I want to see a world that does not exploit individuals in the process to be successful, human and non-human alike. So when I make choices about what to buy, I think a way to make that, a way to vote positively for me has been to limit what I purchase in the first place and to buy used when I can. I'm also trying to sincerely limit the waste that I produce when I do purchase items, and then buying locally is another thing that I'm starting to take on as a challenge. But the list could go on and on about what I can do to minimize my own negative impact. And to be honest, I'm finding in the meantime it's almost impossible to completely have an unethical impact in the world, but I think we can do what we can do to try to minimize it. And I think that it would be great if our governments had increased responsibility over this matter, and that can come down to us as individuals to encourage that, because if there are policies and procedures in place that affect the market and what is permissible for consumers to buy, it probably would allow for consumers to make more informed and educated choices that might lead to what they would think is a better direction in the first place. So I hope to see that, and I hope that we as individuals can encourage that in in our governments. I think that would be great. So those are 3 pretty strong reasons for why minimalism has been attractive to me. And there are probably others, but as I keep going, I find that I am enjoying the simplification and having my anxieties be less over physical objects and be more concerned about what I can do to enrich my life in terms of experiences, in terms of who I surround myself with, and in terms of what knowledge I'm accumulating. And I think that as long as I upkeep this type of pattern, I think I'm just going to overall be a more well-rounded and happier person. So I'm glad that I got to share that with you. Please feel free to share with me what has seemed appealing about the minimalist lifestyle to you, and hopefully we can chat. Bye.